All right. We are live. And I'm just going to put it plainly. This team sucks. They are bad at the game of American football. They don't really do anything well, nor do they really seem to have an identity to build off of. Obviously, I'm coming off the heels of an extremely embarrassing, once again on a national stage, loss to Boston College, 28-13, which could have been 35-13, but luckily Bill O'Brien need it in the red zone to show some sort of mercy, which is actually more embarrassing somehow. This was a team that we thought was going to be able to do two things, which are the foundation of like a good football team. We always thought there was always debate on like the margins, right? Could it be great? Did it have the talent ceiling? But we know it's going to be competent. We know it's going to have a high floor. We were 100% wrong. As of right now, this team really has no structural integrity. They cannot run the ball at all, and they cannot stop the run. If you cannot do those two things, I don't see a path forward for winning many football games. Like I said, they don't really have an identity. They're really just an amorphous, vacuous, formless blob of suck. If you could take like a jellyfish and remove all of the tentacles to make it completely non-threatening, so you would just have like a gelatinous, transparent creature. That is what Florida State's football team is right now. There's nothing they can hang their head on. They cannot run the ball. They cannot stop the run. They cannot efficiently throw passes. They cannot create turnovers. And they are pretty good at special teams. So they have special teams. So they have one tentacle. If you guys think I'm being too harsh, go ahead. That's fair. I want to hear what your thoughts on it are. But it was an extremely disappointing effort. And the thing about it, similar to the Georgia Tech game, Boston College did exactly what we thought they were going to do. And they never had to deviate from the plan. 263 rushing yards to Florida State's 21. The entire first quarter, Florida State had the ball for like 0.4 seconds. This was a train wreck of a game. And I want to hear y'all's opinions of the game generally, and then we'll get to each side of the ball to the degrees of how bad they were.
Yeah, we're getting information passed to us by the 247 guys.
No, that's fine. Say what you will. There's a lot of people at practice. Nick Saban watched this team practice in Dublin and talked about how talented the front was. There were NFL scouts that have seen this team and say, wow, they are big and strong and fast. Mike Norvell commented, there's hard quantifiable numbers on this is the biggest, strongest, fastest team he's ever seen. Once again, Mike Norvell and his staff, they are always they've always been very honest in their assessment.
That's that from Mike Norvell right there.
So the thing that is concerning to me is that as surprised as all of you are, I believe the coaching staff is equally, if not even more surprised, which gives me less optimism for this season. So yes, this team is surprisingly bad from people that have seen these guys in person to see how physically talented they are. So go ahead. I mean, get mad. We're mad too. We have to watch every single second of this. But it was shocking. They're shocking. It was shockingly bad. It was shockingly bad and shockingly undisciplined. The multiple penalties, the TJ Ferguson penalty on 4th and 5 near the end of the game, where you did show some signs of life, moronic. The Byron Turner penalty on the kickoff to get BC great field position, which they immediately capitalized on. The multitude of losing plays that you made between the drops and the misfires on throws and just the non-recognition of the simple plays that Boston College was running. It was a terrible effort all around. Adam, what are your thoughts on the totality of the game before we get down to offense and defense?
I don't know, the totality of the game, it sucked.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of words. I mean, I'm negative when they do good, so shit, I'm gonna be freaking negative when they do really bad too.
What was the most surprising part of it?
I just this they feel like they've tuned Mike out. I don't see a lot of like. I mean, you think about what we've seen in the past from these guys. Even when it's been bad, the message was always consistent and the same, and guys kind of always rallied around that. It just feels like this group has completely checked out, and I'm not sure they ever checked in really. I think that the stories are going to slowly start leaking out here about after the snub and going into the portal, or the beginning of the portal season in December, and all these stories are going to slowly leak out. I just I think that they absolutely dropped the ball with how they handled the snub, how they handled the offseason, and now how they're handling the season, and it's all coming crashing down around them.
Yeah, it seems like as far as like the feeling, it's tough because you've taken 2 really good years in 2022 and 2023, and with the way that you built the team, it's almost like you're back at square one a little bit as far as like the health and the status of the roster. Yeah, we knew that the hit rate on the Mike Norvell transfer portal era was never going to be as high as it was at the beginning. But now you start to seriously think about this, like the newest crop of these guys. I mean, the impacts that they had on the game, largely negative. It's
shit. I don't know if they hit on one.
Yeah, it's tough. It really is tough to like at least right now. If I had to
Jalen
choose,
Lucas, but they can't get him the ball because they're
no,
behind. And
it's like I said, there's not much positive to talk about. It oddly feels like after the Jacksonville State game, as far as like a feeling of, I don't want to say hopelessness, but there's confusion. Like, what are you going to hang your hat on? Like, your season's effectively over in the first week of September, and you've got a lot more tough games left on the schedule. Like, the calculus of what this season is going to be, it sounds like it's going to be.
I mean, I think that they made an effort to try. I think they made an effort to try. No, it's just something that I agree with. I mean, about some of these people that need to be looking for new jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they made a legitimate. I think that they miscalculated what the base of this team was for this upcoming year and decided to try to push their chips in to get back in the 12-team playoff. And I'm not sure they did it on time, so they started a little bit behind, and look what they ended up with.
Yeah, the culture shock.
I mean, we told you that Marvin Jones Jr. was an issue coming from Georgia, and I mean, we try to talk nicely about it because they took him, and we try to find the positive because people get mad when we talk negative. And I screamed about the pass rush all off season, and stupidly allowed myself to be talked into it being better than they haven't gotten the pressure yet from an edge this season. I mean, not close.
No pressure.
Not close.
They had opportunities.
Particularly him. I mean, particularly him.
And especially with, I mean, how much visibility was placed on this defensive line from how people watch them play at practice. I just don't know what the disconnect has been from how they've performed, not just from our own guys that are at practice, which watch these dudes with a trained eye and know exactly what they're looking at, but confirmed by multiple third-party, even non-FSU media sources. What is the disconnect between what they've shown other people and the product that they put out on the field? And that's just the defensive line. And they're not even the most glaring issue on this team. It's the one that gets the most visibility because it's supposed to be the strength. This is a team with no strength. Kev, from an offensive perspective, what have you seen? What is there? Is there a foundation to build off of? Have there been glimmers? I thought Kentron Portier. That was solid, man. Great game from him. And then I got much else, man. From a watching the game play out on the field standpoint, what has struck you the most about this version of the Florida State Seminoles?
Well, first of all, I mean, we can talk about missing the transfer portal, but who were your guys? A.Z. Thomas is your guy. He missed several assignments, in my opinion, based off a guess. He was not a guy for you. He was soft in the run game. I think he missed several assignments. We talked about Darius Washington being a potential All-American. He was getting work. He was on skates all night.
Bad game.
You're off. I said in the preseason, if you can't run this football, DJ's not going to win you football games. They can't run this football. This offensive line is porous. It's bad. Your best player is supposed to be your left tackle. He's not doing anything for you. Your guards are getting pushed 5 yards in the backfield at the snap. You have nobody on the offensive line. Your veterans, the guys you've invested in, are no-shows. You've got Shaheem Brown, who's supposed to be a dude for you as a safety. I don't even see him on the field. You have Cypress making the same mistakes AZ's making on the other side of the field. These guys are supposed to be your dudes. You have guys who NFL scouts are drooling over, and Darrell Jackson and Josh Farmer, who aren't visible on the field. You have nobody to play at linebacker that you can trust. I mean, everybody was going on and on about Omar Graham. Omar Graham didn't play this game. Do you see why Omar Graham played last game? There's serious issues on every level of this team, starting from quarterback and extending down through every position on this roster. We can sit here and we can point individual fingers at individual coaches, at individual players.
Right.
I think that's a waste of time because every level of this team was not where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And that's a Mike Norvell problem.
Yeah, ultimately it's a Mike problem. He's allowed. I mean, there's been great debates for years now about Adam Fuller and Randy Shannon, and Mike's always talked about wanting consistency. And I just think we've reached the level or the point where consistency has turned into complacency. He brought all these guys back after a 13-0 season and thought, well, we're going to run it back again, instead of asking hard questions and paying attention to where the issues were in his program, where the downfalls were, and they're biting him in the ass now. I mean, and he's got to decide ultimately he's got to decide whether he believes that or not. Obviously high school recruiting has been a major issue, a major talking point for a few years at this point. They went in on the portal yet again because of high school recruiting misses over the last couple of years. They were forced yet again to go in on portal recruiting. And they've had this philosophy that they're going to build their roster year over year. They're going to be a year over year roster build, not invest long-term in these high school prospects. They're not going to get their young guys. I mean, why are we in a game tonight and Elijah Moore and the other young receiver? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his
name. LaWayne McCoy.
Yeah. I mean, why are these young guys just not playing at this point in these games? So they're making choices to not invest reps into some of these young guys also
for now.
Them for now at this point, it's early. But what the hell else was running out there? I mean, what are we waiting on? So you essentially have missed on every portal take in a season where you are having to try to really replace a lot of NFL guys with that, and have to make up for a lot of misses in high school recruiting. And you're taking it right now, and you are taking it hard.
The thing that's hard for me is you've out-recruited Georgia Tech and Boston College every year that this program has existed, and you're still getting boat raced by Boston College at home. This problem is deeper than recruiting, but I do agree. Recruiting fixes a lot of – it's a Band-Aid you can put over every single wound.
Well, go
I'm
ahead,
getting very
Adam.
frustrated watching everybody else run counter effectively, and we can't.
You can't run your bread and butter. You cannot run your bread and butter.
I'm getting very aggravated.
Your defense can't run a basic switching man.
So that's the issue to me. So this roster was put together for competency, right? And with a potential to be very good. That's what it seems like this was put together with the mindset is. I don't know if you'll get an answer from them, what they were thinking. Obviously, every fan, it's Florida State. Yeah, it really does. Like a lot of it's something that we all thought was an aberration. I don't know. There seems to be some sort of systemic rot in getting a product out on the field, getting the most out of the guys that you have, because the dudes that you have physically they're not being put in the best position. They're not taking to the coaching. They're not doing what they're coached to be doing, and they're not playing to the best of their physical ability. There's a buffer there. I don't understand why in year 5 this is cropping up. I don't know what is lingering over this team, but for a team that even when the teams were bad, think about like the 2021 teams, there's always been the hallmark of this program has been response. And they have responded so abysmally after what happened last December in every way, shape, and form that it is shocking to see. Like, you gave a guy a massive extension because of the competency he's shown. You've given him the benefit of the doubt. You don't want to revoke the benefit of the doubt after 3 games, including the Orange Bowl. But this is shockingly terrible. Like this, you're looking at one of the, especially with all the eyes that were on you after the noise that you made, and the conference realignment is its own separate deal. And that we all agree that needs to be necessary. However, there's more eyes on your program.
Mm-hmm.
And both of your embarrassments have been when you're the only game on TV. Everybody has seen you. So you want to talk about the outsized ramifications? It's the Jeff Goldblum Tyrannosaurus Rex water cup. Because this is going to affect national perception, recruiting. You've just made your job harder. Like we said 3 or 4 years ago, whenever Jacksonville State happened, Mike Norvell has just made his job a lot harder. Well, he's made his job a lot harder again in year 5, not in year 2, and it's inexplicable.
It feels like this team. It feels like Norvell said, when he got here, I'm going to evaluate well. I'm going to develop my players, and I'm going to do that. At this past season, it felt like he said, I'm going to bring in whatever I can to get talent on this team, and we're going to win with just throwing players at the problem. And those players aren't fixing the problem.
Kev, I have a question for you because you're more of a basketball recruiting mind than me. It seems like the way that this team is built, college basketball wise, and Chris Nee has made this analogy to like 1 year builds. Normally, we had not seen that pre-transfer portal era. It's multi-year high school recruiting, feed the pipeline, gradual builds. You kind of know, you can see the upward trajectory of a program. Does this feel like a college basketball team that went heavy on transfers and missed? Like it feels like a team where you thought like the concentration of misses that you have in both the transfer portal and in your own evals, it's compounding in such a way that the effect is really outsized. Does it? I mean, we've seen this in college basketball multiple times at like talented programs like a Kentucky. Kentucky will have a bad year of transfers and have an off year where it's like just because the 2023 version was good, it doesn't guarantee success the next year. Does it kind of feel like that this year? Like, why are they so bad?
Yeah, I mean, it just, I would agree. Like, yeah, Kentucky, or, I mean, you see it in football too. You know, you see these teams that buy up a bunch of players from the portal without any sort of like critical evaluation of how they're going to come together as a team. And right now, this team has no identity. There's nothing about this team you can trust. You can't play man coverage well because you can just run a basic man beater at them. You can't stop the run. And trust me, they were bringing an extra person. They were bringing an extra person in the box aggressively all game, and they still could not stop the run. Like that was not a schematic issue necessarily. They can't do the basic things against a Boston College. And offensively, what are they doing? What are you doing on offense? You can't run the ball.
Last week you don't throw the ball. This week you throw it 40 times with DJ. I don't.
Yeah, 42 attempts throwing the
you can't run
ball.
It. We've seen what it looks like running the ball. They tried to run it.
I'm telling you, man, it just feels like they were stuck in the freaking mud since that day in December. Like this program feels stuck in the freaking mud. The portal was a mess. The end of high school recruiting was a mess yet again. Spring, we said, didn't look that great. It just feels like a freaking mess, man. They don't seem like they can get the hell out of their own way. It doesn't feel like that response that they've built this program on, even from Mike, is quite the same as we've seen it in the past. I fully expected an impassioned press conference last week after the loss to Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like business as usual. It was just like, oh, yeah, I mean, he gave us typical rah-rah kind of stuff, but it just did not feel the same.
Yeah, when
you watch on the sideline tonight, like he's got that lost look again. Like I don't know,
it's not promissory note season or anything like that, but there is going to have to be some sort of massive shift. Whether it's an incomplete, what you have now. Your season is lost from like a macro goal perspective. Mm-hmm. It just is. So now you're starting to get to the point, which is so crazy in Game 3. We're talking youth movements, investing into the future. You put together significant. I mean, they're spending money in NIL. They put resources. This is not a team of scraps. Serious resources were. This is not a cheap team. Serious resources were put to this team, and it is a failure. So now, do you have more good money following bad? Like there's a sunk cost fallacy. It might be time to start investing into the 2025 guys now. because it's over. 2 conference losses, embarrassingly so. It's over. The meat of your schedule is not even close. Like it's whatever, man. Like this feels very.
There was money dumped into dudes that weren't getting freaking.
Well, I
weren't
know.
gonna go anywhere. Like at
That's
what
just
point?
a topic for its own. Yeah, that's
I
a
mean, at
topic
some
for its
point,
own.
somebody's got to.
Well, allocation. Now, I
Somebody's
agree
got
with
to tell
you.
Mike also, like, hey, bro, you may not be as smart as you think you are with some of these roster moves, and we may need to be evaluating a little bit better, like we used to, than what.
Like I said, there's no doubt that the total amount of money spent is not at all commiserate with the result you're getting. Not at all. Like this is not for the level of investment and how good Florida State's NIL program is, nationally speaking. Allocation is a different story, and that's not something I want to get onto here. I think that's something that it's its own, like how that money's divvied up to who, et cetera, et cetera. That's not something I want to talk about, but that's something that I think could be talked about. Let's go moving on from here. Adam, I'm going to stick with you on the defensive side. Kevin, I'm going to get your thoughts offensively. What can be done to, like, Adam, what is the biggest reason why Boston College can line it up 50 times and run the ball for 270 yards and control the ball for 45 minutes while doing nothing surprising whatsoever? Like
they know what they're going to get down and down. I mean, I kind of was lumping all this in at the same time with stuff earlier about like consistency becoming complacency. Like,
right,
your scheme hasn't changed. You've been the same this year that you were last year, that you were the year before that. I mean, I'm sure there's been minor tweaks, but you are what you are. You have not adjusted very much. As a matter of fact, you've gone backwards because now you're running more 3 linebacker stuff, which, you know, how much base personnel are you seeing in football these days? But teams know where to attack this defense at this point because you just haven't changed that much.
Yep.
So they know what you're going to be in. They know what you're going to be in. They've got you scouted down to down, game to game, play to play. They know what you're going to be in and what the looks you're going to give, and they just know how to attack you. And you're not adjusting. And your adjustments are to bring a safety in the box and try to blitz more. And they know what that look looks like and where it's going to come from. And they just know how to attack you. I thought the defense had a couple drives tonight that looked improved.
The second half, yeah.
I mean, really, the second quarter on, I thought they played better. They got put in some bad situations by this horrible offense, and
but they also didn't put the offense in a good position either.
Right, they didn't in the first quarter. I mean, basically allowing the offense to have or BC to play the entire first quarter was ridiculous.
Is there the capacity,
especially after the Georgia Tech game, when you saw?
Yeah, I don't think there's I don't think there's a magic answer.
Yeah,
I think
that's what I want to get to.
Everybody's going to be hunting for an answer. There isn't one. Somebody on that team is going to have to decide enough is enough, and they're going to have to ball up and drag some personalities out there on the field that are going to want to play for 4 quarters. You're not going to change your scheme. That's not going to happen.
No, not in season.
In the middle of the freaking season. Like, that just doesn't really happen. And if it does happen, it doesn't really work out historically. So you're not going to start doing a whole lot of different stuff. Like, they've just got to, I hate to be cliche, but they've got to respond. And I don't see anybody trying to get them to respond.
No, I think it was talked about during that last practice report that turned out to be pretty prophetic. The one that Brendan wrote.
Yeah.
There's no player leaders on this team. There's nobody demanding accountability. There's no Braden Fisk or Jared Verses or Kalen DeLoach's demanding accountability. It's like you said, complacency is the word of the day, man. And when you add complacency with being an easy scout, you're an easy mark, dude. You're an easy mark.
You've kept the same staff together for 4 years now? Like, outside of Woodson leaving. I mean, I don't.
And this staff at Boston College showed up in one off season, put together a more coherent scheme, more coherent game plan, has a team playing better together in one off season than you do after 5 years. 5 years ago, we said, Florida State doesn't have the athletes that you want, that they don't have the athletes they're going for. They don't have, the cohesiveness of being part of a team for some amount of time. They haven't built up that floor. And so that's how we're saying this is why they're losing. Now they're losing, and you've been there for a while. You've recruited all these guys in. If this was a rebuilding year, that's because that's how you recruited it to be.
Yeah. Total control. You had total control over your own roster. Like, you knew what this year was going to be years prior. Like, you've been building towards this. And if you thought that there was going to be a dip down before another like all in type year, I don't know internally what they thought, but Kev, you're right. This is the fifth year in the program.
Team.
They like this. That's the thing.
They like this team. How did you miss this bad on this on this team? I mean, is your head that far up your own arse? Like that's the kind of shit that scares the hell out of me. How did you like this team?
That's a great point.
You just stared at the numbers blindly and saying, well, the numbers say we're great. I mean, come on. He hasn't missed. He hasn't missed yet. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2021, they thought they were winning 4 games. They won what, 4 games?
They've been like on the money. They've even a little bit more conservative with their own assessment.
They've been good about having the pulse of this team. And that's why I go back to like, man, maybe it's a really easy excuse, and I'll be completely wrong, but it really feels like they have been stuck in the mud since that snub. It really effed Mike Norvell, and it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get his head out of his ass.
Well,
and I don't mean that disrespectfully. Like, that was that. Fuck happened to my computer.
Kev, I want to talk to you about the offense. Like Adam said, there's really no magic bullet. Is there something like, what have you seen from the offensive scheme, and what can they do with an emphasis like on the short term to make this a better product? Or is it just completely non-functional on the offensive side? It looked, every single yard was a fight. It was a Herculean struggle.
Well, here's the problem. You knew who DJ was. You knew who DJ is.
But he's looked so much worse even than he did at like the Clemson and Oregon State, right? Or am I wrong on that?
No, he does. And it's because you're asking more of him. Clemson and Oregon State had reliable run games that would open up the pass for him. If you don't have that, DJ's not going to win you football games. He's not that guy. He's a game manager at best who can profit off of a good run game, and you don't have a good run game. You cannot block loaded boxes like Clemson could and like Oregon State could. You cannot run against a team. Heck, you got some good looks today, and you got like what? It would be like the offensive line would get good blocks on a light box, and you'd get 4 yards because they'd get tripped up at the line of scrimmage or something. Like
the backs had a terrible day today, man. Toafili, you got to catch some pat. Like, just nobody wants to make winning plays at every level of this offense, at every level of this team.
Can we talk Kyle Morlock?
Yeah, that's dude. I don't even know if I want to get into that, because that's like, that almost looks like a Yip situation. That's awful. He had a very, very awful game.
But you're investing so much energy into him in the game plan. Oh, I mean, come on. At some point, don't you see what's going on?
There's a lot of energy being invested in a lot of people who aren't performing, and he is one of them, definitely.
I don't know.
So
man.
What do you do, Kev? Like, if you, with the guys that you have, is it time to just go full youth movement and take your lumps? Like, who would you focus? Because the thing is, it's not even that Florida State doesn't have an identity that they can always fall back on. Like you said, they don't have guys. They don't even have reliable dudes on each side of the ball where it's like, well, if all else fails, we can give the ball to X, and we know that we got a playmaker in X. They don't have anybody to fall back on offense.
Let's talk about it. You started out by going to an RPO because you're like, they're going to be crashing down on the run hard. They did. But guess what? Your number one receiver can't get inside separation against Boston College. They ran it 2 or 3 times, and Malik Vincent was blanketed. They ran several trick plays, including that flea flicker, and Kyle Morlock couldn't win a one-on-one down the sideline against a linebacker. Your left tackle is on skates all day. Like, your quarterback is missing wide open guys in the backfield. All of this is saying you actually could have won that game if you don't make just massively dumb mistakes. But that's not how this team is built. And right now, I'm not upset at DJ. I don't think any of this is DJ's fault. DJ, you knew exactly what you were getting when you signed DJ. This is who he is. This is who he's always been. This should not be a surprise to the coaching staff. But at this point, no one else is winning this game, so you're going to have to figure something out. You're going to have to put someone in a position to win a game because your line's not winning your games, your receivers aren't winning your games, your tight end's not winning your games, and your quarterback's not winning your games. You got to figure out someone that will, because it's not looking like you got that on the roster. So like maybe it's one of the young guys, maybe it's not. But you got to try something besides what you're doing because it's bad. This is bad.
Kev, it feels like we're at 2020 all over again, where it's like this offense can do nothing right. They need to find one thing that they can do.
It was counter. It was.
I know, but they don't have that anymore. Remember when the namesake of the original show, we called ourselves the triple option after the Jordan Travis stuff. It's like, dude, they need to find one thing and build off of it they can do and run it to death. Because right now they have nothing to fall back on. Like this is.
But it's easy. I mean, the problem is that you're not going to find a silver bullet. Like it's just
no.
Because teams know that you can just load the box and dare you to throw the ball over the top. I mean, you don't have dudes that can go win it. You just don't have guys that can go win those battles.
I mean, they can every once in a while, but not enough to win a game.
Not enough to win a game. And they're going to funnel everything to making you throw to Kyle Warlock, and he's not going to win you a football game. I'm not being smart, but
no,
we see him running. He's not just. It's just not in his skill set. So. And the problem is you're building year to year. You don't have young guys to really go to because you invest so much time and energy into bringing in poor guys. Like on defense, who are you turning to on defense? Like, okay, you don't want to play Darrell Jackson. You don't want to play Josh Farmer. I'm just saying hypothetically, people are so mad at those two. You don't want to play them. Who are you playing? You're going to play Grady Kelly and Daniel Lyons.
They played a lot of this game.
And they got better when they did.
Who else are you playing at end?
This is the unfortunate truth, it sounds like, in the transfer portal era. When you miss for the entire year.
You best not miss because holy moly.
Great wire reference. Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, man, I don't. So to me, the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over. There needs to be some change, whether it's complete cultural shift. Something needs to change. This needs to be a massive pivot point because right now, the calculus for what your season could be, it could be abysmally bad. This could be one of the most historic, like all eyes on you failures since like the Lane Kiffin USC year to year, like as far as like the year to year variability. And the one scenario that this team was built to supposedly not allow was a complete disaster of a season. And we are staring into that breach 100%. I personally am not going to pick this team to win a game until it wins its first game of the season.
You made me pick them this game.
I do. You're your own man. You're your own man. Listen. But I'm serious. It's so weird that in year 5, you have to teach your roster how to win again. Like it's so many losing plays. There were so many losing plays tonight. To Kevin's point, there were things on the chalkboard drawn up. Like this was a game you could have easily won. Like if you would have taken, but every opportunity that you had, you were so inefficient and piss poor. And it was like every time that this team had a chance to respond tonight, they responded in the worst way possible, whether it was the quarterback airmailing a ball, dropping a ball, a stupid penalty, a misread, poor communication on assignments on defense. Like every time you had the opportunity to respond, you did not get up off the floor and answer the bell. And that's extremely concerning. So I don't really have any more rosy platitudes to throw out on you guys. You don't want to hear them anyway. We're looking at, unless something changes, this is going to be a historically bad football season that was 100% unexpected from fans, media, and coaching staff. Dope. Anything else we want to get to?
No, I think people are going to have to look. We're all going to get frustrated. This is going to be a frustrating season. I think people are going to have to stop looking for hope throughout this year. Like it's not coming.
Yeah,
It's not coming. Like
This was their chance.
They may find a glimpse. There may be glimpses throughout the season, but it's just not going to show up this year. So
No.
we're going to have to ride this wave. Let these Miami fans have their
congrats,
time to shine, because they're going to show up every week and run
they
their
got a good
mouths.
team.
And
they're gonna boat
it
race.
is what it is. It is what it is. Florida State is in the limelight right now with the freaking conference realignment situation. All the whining and complaining that went on in the offseason about the snub. Like,
hey, bro, that was legit. Like, call that what it was. That was legitimate.
It was
that
absolutely.
Was
I'm just saying it.
That was legitimate.
You are in the limelight right now. We're going to have to wear it this year, and you better pull your big boy pants up, because it's coming for you at every turn if you're a Florida State fan right now. So we're just going to have to ride this. We're going to have to ride this season out, and then we're going to really start judging whether Mike Norvell can run the second phase of this program, I guess, because it's gonna involve rethinking really everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of decisions. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made that are going to be very hard and against archetype. And they're going to have to be made, or else all the stuff that you clawed and worked so hard for over these past 5 years, it's a tale as old as time in college football, man. We've seen would-be dynasties erode and totally dissolve because of a series of poor choices or complacent or non-choices, of choices that weren't made. Just you didn't do anything, which in and of itself is a choice. It is what it is, man. I'm with Adam. It's gonna be a long season, but guess what? We're here with you every step of the way, because we have to be. So we love you. We'll try to inject some levity. Tonight was terrible. Good luck. All you guys got to go to the office like I do, because everybody makes a beeline right for my cube to talk to me about what happened last night. We love you guys. Noles247.com. We'll give you the whole postmortem on everything. I believe we are still going to have to watch film review of this, so that will be fun. Stick to that one. And I got nothing else. Just survive and keep chopping, guys. Go Noles.